Is that all you can do? Here's your look at the Play Arts Kai. This is the Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition Cammy. Cammy was first introduced in Super Street Fighter The New Challengers, alongside fellow new characters Fei Long, DJ, and T-Hawk. A member of the British special team known as Delta Red, Cammy was later revealed to have been once loyal to M. Bison. Brainwashed, Cammy undertook an assassin operation under the codename Killer Bee. She would later re-emerge with virtually no memory of her past, inexplicably connected to the tangled machinations of Bison and the Shadaloo organization. For the very first thing we're going to do before we get into the review of Cammy, we're going to figure out how tall the figure stands. Yes, you would be correct. This figure has been around for a while. I picked this up at my local comic book store, stumbling around looking for other things. I happened to see that they had a Play Arts version of Cammy, and this was probably a couple of months ago. So I had it in my collection for a while, and with some additional time on these hands of mine, I figured it would be a perfect time to kind of go back and have a look at some of these figures that I haven't yet had a chance to do. In a way, there's sort of a blessing coming from some of the stuff that's happening on in the world right now. Sure, there's horrible things, but at least if you do have time to be at home, you can kind of get through some of those things that you've been putting off all this time. Hopefully you aren't still putting those things off. Come on, you gotta stick to it. Nonetheless, though, according to my trusty tape measure, Cammy is standing 8 inches in height, and in centimeters, you're looking at the figure standing 20.4, so almost 20.5 centimeters tall. She doesn't come with much in the way of accessories. A stand certainly would have come in handy, being the fact that the figure does have peg holes on the undersides of her feet. What, you don't believe me? Shame on you. On the undersides of Cammy's soled shoes, you can see this, she does have peg holes on the undersides of her feet. I mean, the figure stands fine, as it is, if you are just standing her in a museum straight standing pose. But if you want to put her in more dynamic poses, you're not going to be able to pull that off. In fact, if anything, I'm really surprised that I was even able to pull off something in the realm of dynamic poses at the beginning of this review. Nonetheless, though, of the small trinkets she comes included with, not much, mind you, she does come included with, I believe, the Cannon Strike, an energy construct that you could put at the bottom of her feet. It's nicely spiraled, done in a see-through translucent plastic. I mean, it's not completely see-through. I suppose to some extent it is. And it's made of a very soft, pliable plastic. I like the way it's funneled and shaped the way that it is, and it's got a nice airbrushing of white on the end of it that goes transitionally out, fades out into existence, and then leaves the remaining yellow to be the rest of the figure's construct. I always say these are constructs. They're basically just like created energies. This just happens to be on the bottom of her feet. Now, if you are looking to display her, this is sort of the issue that I had talking about earlier. Unfortunately, she doesn't have, like I said, a display stand. So when it comes to displaying the figure, I always get the direction of this going the wrong way. You simply just take this and you line it up to the bottom of her feet. And you just peg her foot in place like this. Just like that. Couldn't be any bit easier. I mean, when we eventually find which way we want to go and put it. Actually, you know what? I think it's the other way around. I think it is. No, see, I got it right the first time. We'll put it on this foot instead. But it simply, like I said, just pegs into the underside of her feet, lining it up to the hole. It almost doesn't even seem at times like it fits well enough. Like you can't feel at times like you're fitting the foot properly in the spot. Needless to say, though, you can angle the foot down like that. And I guess in a way you could bend the leg this way too. There you go. And she has that. The only problem is, though, you can't have her permanently looking like this unless you had one of two things. A piece of string, which isn't the most exciting and obvious way to go about it, or you could also go with a display stand. Now, unfortunately, this figure doesn't have one. So again, if you want to display her with this, you're not going to simply be holding this for all the time that your friends are coming over. Here, look at my Cammy. I'm just going to hold her right now. Oh, she's a nice looking figure. I know she is. Can I put her down now? I mean, it's nice that she does include it. It certainly adds the pop and the appeal of the character. But without a display stand present, I mean, you're just going to be looking like an idiot standing here the whole time, holding Cammy in your hand. Not that I'm anyways, we're going to go ahead and take that off. We're going to put that to the side. Cammy's a one fine looking woman. We're going to put her down here just for one split second. I believe she was played by Kelly Minaj. Was it Kelly Minaj? Kelly, drawing a blank. Anyways, she does come with her alternate face portrait. You can see right there, side to side. One has the more open mouth. One has the closed mouth. It's entirely up to you which method you'd like to go. The beret seems roughly the same. The hair also seems the same. She also has a little tufts of hair, although this one it moves a little further off to the side than the other one here that's almost dead center. Oh, it's not quite dead center. These, obviously, I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, but I'll tell you this anyways. The hairs you want to be careful of and not clip and bang those in any which way. If you do want to replace out the head, just before we do that, a close-up look at what her face looks like. Not a bad-looking face, considering this is a slightly older figure. A couple of things you want to do, though, before we remove the head is turn around to the back. Pigtails coming up from the back of her head. These are actually articulated, which is kind of cool. They're not the most articulated, and sometimes they're more just a pain in the butt than anything else. But yeah, you can move the pigtails if you wanted to back and forth. You will, though, want to pull these out. Just wiggle them out, pop them out of the little ball sockets there. And that's what they look like right there. I mean, the peg joint, let me just pull this one out before I start resuming with the rest of my conversation here. I like to feel like we're having a conversation here in this room. We're going to just wiggle this out. These are always, like I said, very problematic to pull out. There they are right there from the holes. They're not the same coloring here as they are for the rest of the pigtail. I kind of would have liked if this was the same color, because it really wouldn't involve anything other than just finding and matching the proper plastic color. But we're simply just going to pop the head off. Be careful and mindful of the hair on the front. Probably best to just pull it from the side. And then grab the alternate Cammy head sculpt. So happens I knew I was going to drop it, and pop it just back into place like so. Again, being careful of those hairs. You just want to wiggle. There we go. And you just pop it back into place. Oh, and yes, thank you for reminding me. We're going to go ahead and pop those also in place. There's no real specific, one has to be on one side, one has to be on the other. The thing you will want to be careful of, though, is a very small peg these are. Sounding like Yoda. Just going to wiggle those in and just be careful that you don't break or snap them. Now that I've, of course, jinxed myself by saying that. And again, you just want to wiggle this one in as well. There we go. And then that's what you have with the alternate head sculpt. Again, if you missed the other one, don't worry, it wasn't going away too far. I mean, there it is right there. It's pretty much just a difference of, well, the hair is slightly moved. Other than that, though, it's really just the mouth that's the change. I kind of really actually like this one. But I mean, it's entirely your prerogative, whichever one you want to actually go with. So we're just going to look at this defaulted head sculpt for the time being. Of course, she does have the little noted scar there on the bottom of her face. There we go, nice open mouth. Nice bright blue eyes. Very nice detailed figure when it's all said and done. The hair is actually a decent color. It doesn't have a lot of color to it, mind you. It's just basically blonde hair with slight lighter colors airbrushed on the back there. Of course, she's got her red beret, which isn't removable. It's just permanently attached to the top of her head. Spin it around. Not a bad looking, like I said, figure for its time period. The thing notable about Cammy is obviously with this particular character's costume, there's very little of it. Cosplayers, I can imagine I would award some trophy to. I mean, for the courage of fact just to be able to go out looking like this. I mean, I would not be able to pull off this look for myself, nor would I entertain the idea of going out dressed like Cammy. But there is very little clothing actually on this particular character. What little clothing there is, very nicely has been painted with a contrast of lighter greens to darker greens. Darker greens being more the top color here. Unfortunately, though, the colored section here at the top, I wish a little bit more of this darker color was transitioned into it. So it just had a more natural, again, transitioning from the darker to the lighter colors. I'm really happy the way that they've married the two colors together. In some places, like the abdomen muscles, for example, it's not subtle to the point where obviously you can see the two colors side by side. But it is on a subtle enough level that it doesn't look too stark, maybe like the top area here. I don't know if this is actually just a paint scrape that's come off of my particular figure, but I do have a couple of little notches there on the top there. That's a bit of a shame. I mean, from a distance, I'm not certainly going to see it as much. She's got her gauntlets as well on her arms. Being that this is also a pretty posable figure, which we'll talk about in posability in a second, you can really pull off a lot of looks. Just sadly, fortunately, because she just doesn't have the necessary display stand, you can't get her to stand in a more dynamic pose with her legs, for example. She does have the camouflage printing there on her legs, working her way down to Cammy's boots, which aren't the most posable, unfortunately. I mean, they do have a swivel back and forth, but at the beginning of this review, for example, I had her legs split. I couldn't quite pull her foot completely leveled flat. But the boots themselves are pretty nicely colored, though I do feel like maybe the feet are slightly too big for the character. Cammy has really large feet, at least according to PlayArt's Kai, that decided to sculpt these giant boots. They almost look like boats on the undersides, the bottom of course, her legs. The laces are done nicely as well, and speaking a little bit about that transitioning of color, I like the darker color mixed with the more lighter. It's almost like a purple-based gray. Really like the looking coloring of that. But yeah, overall, just a nice looking figure all around. If you're in the market for Cammy, it really is a nice looking Cammy to be sporting and displaying on your shelf. The other accessory that we didn't touch base on yet was the fact that she also has a pair of flat palms. You can go ahead and just wiggle the hands off, just like that. You want to be careful though, because these particular pegs are very stubborn. Stubborn to let go the hand, and stubborn as well that a lot of times they go with the hand. You just twist, twist, twist. There we go. See? And there we go. The peg generally wants to stay behind and, well, stay with the hand itself. But you can replace the hands. Usually a lot of times when it comes to replacing the hands on this particular figure, I enlist the help of pliers. There I go. Just pop the arm off. Let me just go ahead and grab that. There we go. Usually, like I said, I'll enlist the help of pliers. Pliers can certainly be a best friend of yours, because if you can't get the peg to come out right away, just use a pair of pliers. There we go. See? Finally it gave way. And we're going to take a necessary hand. Thumbsies go in, of course. So we're going to follow that rule of thumb. Oh, literally, I see what I did there. Very clever. See what I did. I'm going to plug that back into place. And you got Cammy with her palm versus her closed fist. Cool. You probably also noticed too that the arm pops off. That seems to be the case on these figures. This one is a little bit more stable and stays in place. This one seems frequently that wants to pop out. It's almost like they've designed it in a way that it always, it's intended in a way to pop out based almost by the way I'm looking at the peg. Like I said, it just fits into the socket like so, which does give her some additional crunching power. You can see that you can move the shoulders forward like this. Kind of a bit in a more awkward way, because on the back, literally just looks like you ripped her arms out of the sockets. But we'll go ahead and talk about the posability right now for Cammy. We'll just put her arms down here for a second. Stay there. For her articulation, her head rotates all the way around. Her hair, obviously, you'll probably see it's happening right now. Her hair gets in the way of things, but you can move her head all the way around if you wanted to. Move head up, move the head down, move the head right, move the head left. She does also have the shoulder articulation, so you can move those arms out. You can't quite fully rotate them. When to rotate them, I should say, if the camera will focus for me, you want to make sure that when you are bringing the shoulder forward, that the arm here, the top of the shoulder, is out of the way. Sometimes if you have it too far back and you try to move the arm, it clips against the back section here, providing that the arm is fairly flushed to itself. You can still rotate the arm all the way around. You can hinge the arm out at a 90-degree angle, and you can swivel at the bicep. She does also have a very nice ratchet joint in the elbow area here, and you can rotate her forearm as well as her additional hands. Whatever hands, of course, you decide to go with. Her waist, her upper torso is on a ball joint. We'll just move those arms out of the way for a second. The upper torso is on a ball joint. The lower torso is also on a ball joint. The legs are about the only thing that's a little bit more limited on a character like Cammy, and you would really want Cammy to have the ability to do better splits than this. And that's about as much as I can actually pull off for the figure. Yes, you can get a high kick boot, but unfortunately I find with this particular figure, two things work against you. Fact also is that she doesn't have a display stand. That's a big one. And even when I do put the leg up to a high kick like this, I find a lot of times the leg just starts drooping down. It hasn't really yet done that, but take my word for it, the leg will slowly start sinking its way back down. But that's about as high up as you can really get the legs. The legs go forward, no problem. The legs go back, but you'll still see a bit of a gap forming when you do move the legs in certain directions. She has a swivel on the top cut of the thigh. She does have a nice ratcheted double joint, double joint in the leg. And then she also has foot articulation in the sense that you can move her boot back and forth, you can move them up and down, and she does have an ankle rocker. No toe articulation on this particular character, but I feel like that's maybe asking too much for what this character actually can pull off. There we go. There we go. There we go. For what this figure can actually pull off, yeah, it would have been nice if she could have rocked the ankle just a little bit more, but she's still a nice looking figure. Surprised really that it took me so long as it did to actually finally get around to reviewing Cammy. Cammy is one of my all-time favorite characters from Street Fighter, and all the more reasoning that when I did spot her with these two peepers of mine at my local comic book store, I wasn't even in the market to pick up a Cammy, not even knowing that they actually had one in the back stock area. I literally went down one of the aisles, just wandering around, a little bit of extra time to kill on my part. And I happened to look up, I happened to look across, and I happened to feast these eyes here, on the Play Arts Kai Cammy, and I immediately picked her up. What I have physically now in hand is a nice looking Cammy when it's all said and done. She's super posable, which is good. Just wish that she actually had a display stand. So, you know, I could actually display her with a pretty cool looking energy construct. We'll just go ahead and call that the little funnel of her kick. I really wish that I could actually be able to display her properly with that. Quoting the lyrics of a rather old Roxette song, and I go, la 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 la, she's got the look, is the best way I would describe Cammy. One of my favorite characters from all the Street Fighter games. Truthfully, though, it's not a character I generally pick that often. Usually, if anything, this OG player goes with the likes of Ken and Ryu. Yeah, I don't usually play too often with the newer fighters. But Cammy I've always had a real interest in. I like the design of the character, and usually when it comes to statues or figures, Cammy's the figure of all the Street Fighter characters from the game. Is the one character I generally pick most of the collectibles up from. Surprisingly, though, I didn't actually have this one in my collection. It was only until I stumbled on it, literally, at my local comic book store that I picked her up. And I feel like I picked her up for a decent price because the comic book store couldn't sell her. Nobody, for one reason or another, nobody was really picking up Cammy. And I think I ended up walking away with her for about 20 bucks. That's not bad at all. For 20 bucks, or even the full price, asking price of what Cammy would have cost me, I think she's actually a decent looking figure when it's all said and done. Accessories are pretty skimpy though. As skimpy as perhaps the outfit that she's wearing, she only has interchangeable hands, which can be very problematic to actually try to pop out and replace. She does also have an alternate head sculpt, which of those are a little bit easier to swap in and out of, which you do also have to remind yourself to remove those pigtails, which can be a bit of the issue as well. She is posable, and she does also come included with her drop kick attack, but unfortunately though, she doesn't have the necessary means to actually be displayed with it. I would love to actually display her in the cannon strike pose, but because she doesn't have a display stand, and I really don't want to just be holding the figure the whole time, that's embarrassing. I'll likely just display her in a more museum pose, probably what you're seeing right now here in Final Looks, just with her one arm up, the one arm to her side, and that real BA stance that I've currently got her in. This is my only actually Play Arts Street Fighter figure that I've picked up. I can't help but notice my peepers of mine have been gawking at Akuma that's at the bottom of the packaging as well. I have not seen any more of these, and I guess I could go the route of going online to places like eBay, but I know I'm not going to be getting the steal that I got this one for from getting at my local comic book store. But still, though, a nice looking figure if you can find the investment and the time on your hands, and you're looking to get a nice Cammy as part of your collection. You really want to be picking up a nice piece like this one, the Play Arts Kai Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition Cammy. Again, a nice looking figure. I just wish she had a display stand. Is that so much to ask? Play Arts have released display stands with many of their figures, and yet Cammy gets squat. She gets nothing. Nothing at all. It's a nice looking figure, but she gets nothing at all. Kylie Minogue, by the way. Yeah, can't get you out of my mind. That was, yes, Cammy. Either way, though, guys, what do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comments section whether you picked up this figure for yourself or based on this review and this review alone, what do you guys think of the PlayArts Kai Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition Cammy? If you guys are also new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and keep your peepers peeled, because there's going to be certainly a lot of videos coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.